Hey, it's Amy, and here are the most asked LinkedIn questions that I get answered for you. So the first most common question that I get is, what do you do at Disney and what part of Disney do you work for? So I work in corporate Disney, which means that I represent all our lines of businesses from the parks team to Disney streaming. I've really enjoyed working in corporate so far because I get to have my hand in every business and really understand the uniqueness of every department. And having that exposure is something that I really appreciate about my job. I personally have a background in media and marketing, and I would say that my role is very relational. Not only do I get to work with all the different business units at Disney, but I also manage a lot of our social media partner relationships, so like a Twitter or Facebook or Snapchat. So I would say that my team acts almost like a consultant on behalf of the company, and we do a lot of project management as well. So second question, how do you stand out when applying to Disney? This is a great question, and I would say that my answer is universal to all companies and not just Disney. Number one rule of thumb, make sure you're catering your resume to the job posting that you are seeing. You'll see certain keywords like pop up, and I would make sure that you have that in your resume. So for instance, if working with stakeholders is really important, I would make sure that you capture those relational strengths like on your resume, whether it is working with like different club members or like with a client. Second, I am all about the STAR method, and the best advice I ever got about my resume when I was first job hunting was that you might have an awesome sentence about what you're doing, but if it's not reflecting like what you are directly bringing into that environment, definitely, reshape that sentence so that you can emphasize your contributions and the results you brought. Which is why, it's nice to have that analytical data of what you contributed, but it doesn't always have to be so number heavy if you don't have that information at hand. Just make sure that you are definitely putting on paper what you contributed to that role. Those are my quick resume tips. I'm going to be getting into how to frame your resume a little bit more into the video, so stay tuned for that. Number three, how do I get a job at Disney? So first, I want to give you a piece of encouragement. Disney is so competitive. So if you don't hear back, don't feel too down about yourself. I, for instance, applied probably to a bunch of internships at Disney, literally never heard back, possibly didn't even get a rejection email. And I now work at Disney. So don't worry about it too much. And here are my takeaways. Remember that at a company that is really competitive like Disney, they're going to have a ton of applicants. So it's really about how your experience sets you apart from different candidates. For all my new grads out there, I know sometimes you fall into this trap of wanting to find the perfect job or the perfect internship, but there is no perfect next step. There is just a step. And if you literally take that step, that job and experience that you get is going to set you apart from other candidates, and it's going to help you nail, your interview and your application to more competitive roles. I definitely fell into this trap as a new grad. I actually took 6 months to job hunt, partially because, the job hunt is pretty tough, but also because I was looking for my perfect next step and I just didn't want to settle. That was just not the right mindset to be in. It really limits your scope of what you can go after, and that makes it so much harder for you. So overall, just go get that experience, and you never know where that experience is going to take you next. All right, next question. What is it like interviewing for media and marketing roles? I actually saw this on YouTube, and it's something that I do now. I take the job description and then I copy and paste it onto a Google Doc, and then I try to identify the words that come up the most. So if stakeholder or analytical keeps coming up, I will take note of the terms that seem like keywords, and then I will try to phrase questions off of those keywords. And this is a great way to predict the more behavioral questions that are gonna pop up. If it's a very relational job and you're working cross-functionally, you're probably gonna get a question like, when was a time you worked through conflict? My major does not add up to the jobs that I want, and what do I do about that? Really, no worries if not. And I know sometimes it can be discouraging to think that I wasted 4 years studying something that I don't actually want to do, but you have so many cross-functional learnings that you're gonna take with you into your next role or your next move. Whatever you're going through right now is going to be an asset for you later. I would say the most important thing with your major is really distinguishing what you enjoy about it. So for instance, if you're a finance major, but you realize you don't want to be an analyst or go into the finance world, maybe you really like reading data, and interpreting data is a huge part of media and marketing. It's all about how you frame it and sell it. Another question I get that's kind of along the same thinking is that my internship experience or my previous job experience doesn't match up to what I want to do in the future. Everything you're going through now is going to be an asset. A lot of interviewing and applying is framing yourself to fit that role that you're interested in, because wherever you are at, whatever internships you did, you can always find cross-functional skills that will help you fit into the role that you want. And if not, you can find something that's more of an in-between that will help you get there. So it's all about like knowing your strengths and weaknesses and framing yourself up to take the next step that'll get you to where you want to be. I also want to call out that with internships, I know it can be pretty discouraging if the only thing you've learned from it is that you don't want to be in that role. That was like my internship experience. And at the time I felt really, disappointed, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I missed out on landing my first job through my internship. But like looking back now, it's better to spend 3 months in an internship realizing it's not the industry you're interested in than to spend 3 years. Another question that I get is, what does your day-to-day look like working in media and marketing? I don't have the same typical day, so there's not like one standard day that I could really share with you, but there are a couple things I can call out that might be a little bit more unique to marketing. I would say that you work a lot cross-functionally, so you also have a lot of meetings, whether that be internally or externally with different partners. Media and marketing also have different seasons, so you have the upfronts for broadcast and digital. If you are interested in knowing more about media, let me know, because I basically had to spend like an entire 6 months to a year working in a media job to understand what it was. Question 8. How did you decide to pursue a career in media and marketing? I've also shared this in our previous videos, but I actually had no idea like the media category existed under marketing until I got my first job in media right out of college. I definitely feel for new grads who have this question of like, what is marketing and am I interested in it? Because the umbrella of marketing is so big that it's hard to encapsulate. So as someone coming more full circle on this, I can definitely tell you that it's hard to know what career you want to pursue until you're actually in a career and getting that experience. And I understand that it's so hard to find direct experience in what you think you want to do, but a good rule of thumb that I go by is like, would I want my boss's job? You're gonna have to work up the ladders, so initially you'll probably be working on deliverables you're not as passionate about, but we all gotta pay our dues. I also want to call out internships here, because internships are a great experience for college grads and college students to know if they're interested in the industry. Block out the noise and really focus on what you enjoy doing, because as we all know, it's pretty hard to do. Question number 9, general advice. What would I tell my younger self looking back now? There's a quote I like. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. This is so important, but it's really hard to register sometimes because we all have this like measuring stick of success, and oftentimes that measuring stick is based on other people's success. And it's like that other quote where we're all comparing our behind the scenes with someone's like highlight reel. Your time will come and it will probably manifest in a way that you could have never predicted. So give yourself that space to grow and capture that growth by seeing who you were then and who you are now, versus seeing yourself now and comparing it to someone who's like, you don't even know they're behind the scenes. Success isn't this like upward path. It's like a squiggly path with like its ups and downs. Second, someone told me you can't job hunt forever. Like, you're gonna find a job. That in my worst, darkest moments, like really sat with me, because I was like, okay, I feel like I'm going to be job hunting forever. I feel this feeling of like rejection and like uncertainty. Realistically, like everything has to end. So it is still temporary in its own nature. In terms of the job application, applying is a numbers game. So obviously the more time that passes, you'll have more applications in, which will help you land a job. And you'll have more practice like with that time. Another thing that happens is that our expectations become a little bit more realistic. And what I mean by this is when you're first job hunting, you really try to look for that perfect job. And then at a certain point, you realize like, okay, where I am at and what I want is not on the same playing field. It doesn't mean that I can't get there, but it just means that like I'm gonna need a couple things under my belt in order to get there. So this is a video based on the most asked questions I get on LinkedIn, so I thought I would wrap it up by sharing some tips on how to reach out to people on LinkedIn. I've sent my fair share of messages that I look back on and I cringe. And I also have messages where like people have been so kind. I would say like don't feel too down if someone doesn't respond to you. Honestly, chances are they are getting a lot of messages like yours, or they're just like really busy at work. Things that I would not do is reach out with like a favor right off the bat, especially if you don't know them. Like, hey, can you give me a referral? Or like, hey, can you connect me to someone in your network? Or how do I get a job at your company? The reason I say the last one is because it is so broad and vague. No one can get you a job at a company. You know, you have to find a role that you're interested in that fits you at that company. A good rule of thumb is generally having a specific role or a specific department that you're interested in and reaching out to someone in that sphere to get their take on their day-to-day, the culture, how they broke into that, and you know, any advice that they can share with you on what you can do to really make that your next step. I would also throw in the words like quick chat or quick connect so that you are kind of leaving the ball in the other person's court from how long you guys talk together. So I would just say put a little bit of extra thought there so that that can really come across in your message. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. I wanted to make these questions more accessible for everybody. If I wasn't able to cover your question in this video, you know, as always, feel free to comment below and I will get back to you.